the Constitution envisages that the Election Commission alone should have the final word in every respect, even if there be any controversy or dispute requiring resolution, that can be taken up after the election process has been concluded.
India is considered to be a tolerant society. The Election Commission of India, however, cannot afford to be tolerant. In fact, it has developed a zero-tolerance level for any kind of electoral malpractice. How else can it conduct elections in a country that firmly believes in and cherishes the principles of pluralism? Indian elections represent an amalgamation of plural thoughts, plural religions, plural customs, plural languages, and plural needs. However plural the outlook though, there is full-blooded unity in one conviction. The ballot box is important, and every vote counts. Going to the polls, Indians believe, is like a spiritual exercise that can bring a positive change. It may be with just one vote, but it counts. The nation accords great respect to each vote, and the Indian Election Commission goes to unimaginable lengths to record it.
We have polling stations where there's only one voter. There are quite a few, 3-4 polling stations. I remember one in the state of Kerala. An entire day, our polling party waited so that at his own time of choice, the voter came and voted. So for one voter, this polling stations were maintained.
In a unique experiment, the Election Commission introduced 6 mobile booths in the inaccessible areas of Barmer and Jaisalmer in Rajasthan. This was the first time that such booths would be crisscrossing the far-flung areas of the district. The mobile booths were a huge success. Finding a period when elections can be held throughout the country is not simple. The Election Commission has to take account of the weather. During winter, constituencies may be snowbound, while in the monsoon, access to remote areas can become restricted. Then, there is the agricultural cycle to be considered so that the planting or harvesting of crops is not disrupted. Schools are used as polling stations and teachers employed as election officials, so exam schedules have to be kept in mind. Also, there are religious festivals and public holidays. Law and order plus availability and movement of central police forces also factors in. It's like walking a tightrope when logistical difficulties are also added to the mix. The electoral roll is the backbone of the entire exercise. It is normally revised every year. To improve the accuracy of the electoral roll and prevent electoral fraud, the Election Commission ordered photo identity cards for all voters in August 1993. In 1998, the Commission took a historic decision to computerize the entire electoral rolls. With a simple announcement of election dates, the Election Commission shifts gear from macro to micro mode management inside, and outside, the carnival begins. With public participation in the process, the elections virtually turn into a strange admixture of war and festivities. Vibrant colors, dramatic hoardings, spectacular caravans, larger-than-life effigies, all stops are pulled out. The Election Commission also turns into the epicenter of battle. A virtual war zone comes into existence. The officers and staff work incessantly towards a just culmination of this battle. A model code of conduct evolved by the Election Commission on the basis of a consensus among political parties, comes into play as soon as the elections are announced. What is astounding is that ancient India had devised and put into place a fairly elaborate code of conduct for those who wished to contest elections for advisory roles to the king. The Chola inscriptions in the 10th century have a code that seems to have the same basic ingredients as the modern Indian code. Sounds like history repeating itself. The Election Commission appoints a large number of observers to ensure that the campaign is conducted fairly and that people are free to vote as they choose. Humans being human and thus fallible, aberrations do creep in. There are incidents of money power, muscle power, and mafia power that come into play. Criminalization, corruption, communalism, and casteism are not far behind.
I think the biggest challenge still is to check money power in elections. We were grappling with the muscle power and money power initially. We have been able to control muscle power substantially, I think almost totally. But money power, we feel we have a lot to do. The other challenge is that voter participation needs to increase, particularly in urban areas. Contrary to public perception, in spite of illiteracy and poverty, the rural voters participate in large numbers. It is the so-called educated elite who are very indifferent to the election process.
Every state has its own problems. Uttar Pradesh and Bihar faced a great deal of rigging and booth capturing, which the Election Commission has helped to end with strategic intervention. Other states face communal and caste problems and other tensions. Northeast and Jammu and Kashmir face militancy. What rewarding moments for Indians to watch on television. Hordes of voters in Kashmir defying boycotts and threat calls to press buttons on the electronic voting machines in the 2004 elections. How breathtaking to hear the sounds of democracy suffocate the sounds of guns booming in the nearby hills. Whatever the problems, the mood of the nation during the days of voting is buoyant. It's like a nation reborn. Even the logistical difficulties of the voting, misplaced ballots, rumors of fraud cannot dim the overwhelming victory for democracy and justice. This is one of the most important moments in the life of the country. Pride, identity of the common man, power to the people. In the wisdom of the Indian people is the source of India's renewal. Any assault on Indian democracy is avenged by him time and again. The ruling party was thrown out in 1977, 1980, and in several elections since then, including the election of 2004. The media are encouraged and provided with facilities to cover the election. In fact, the media is the biggest watchdog and ally that the Election Commission has.
If the Election Commission is playing the role of a neutral umpire during the great Indian elections, the media is playing the role of a third umpire, monitoring and ensuring that all the decisions taken by the Election Commission are within the rules of the game, and also ensuring, in a sense, that all the players who are out there, all the politicians, are also playing by the rules that have been set by the Election Commission.
The three-member Indian Election Commission has gone from strength to strength. In fact, very few election commissions in the world have such wide-ranging powers. Pulsating with energy and dynamism, the Indian Election Commission has provided experts and observers for elections to other countries in cooperation with the United Nations and the Commonwealth Secretariat. India is a founding member of the United Nations Democratic Fund as well as the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. election officials and delegates from several countries have visited the Commission for a better understanding of the Indian electoral process.
The Election Commission of India has an extraordinary international reputation. In fact, I remember talking to the former Algerian Foreign Minister, Lakhdar Brahimi, when we were setting up the mechanisms in Iraq for the United Nations. And his first thing is, why are we going to any Western countries? The best election experts in the world are the Election Commission of India. Let's go there. That's the sort of reputation that the Indian Election Commission has acquired over the years, and it's richly deserved.
As the largest democracy, India has a great responsibility to preserve, protect, and fine-tune the system and thereby showcase it to the rest of the world. India's continuing success is perhaps crucial to the future of democracy. In fact, in keeping with times, Indian elections have gone completely high-tech. 2004 saw the creative and pioneering use of GIS technology for electoral management in the troubled Naxalite area of Orissa.
Since this being a forest area, we felt that the geographic information system would be a better answer to map the entire route. So using this technology, the entire forest area, all the important infrastructure like school buildings, clinics and hospitals, everything was mapped on the GIS.
This is like another feather in India's already ornate cap and unique to India. Can anyone imagine remote villages in India that have never used electricity or seen a radio or TV or heard the wheels of a train chugging? These modern facilities may not have reached them yet, but the electronic voting machine or the EVM certainly has. The 2004 general elections stand out in the history of election management in India, if not the whole world. Indians saw the countrywide use of electronic voting machines for the first time. 1.07 million EVMs were used in 700,000 polling stations. Most election results were announced in less than a day. The story of the EVM in India is no ordinary success story. It is like a jewel in India's electoral crown. Experts all over the world have observed that the electronic voting machines used in India are the simplest, cheapest, and yet the most effective. One EVM costs less than $200. The best part about the EVMs is the ease with which they can be used. The EVMs are easy to maintain, battery operated, and do not require electricity for functioning. Elections in India once used around 8,000 tons of paper for printing ballot papers. The massive use of EVMs in the general elections 2004 has saved around 150,000 trees, which would have been felled for the production of ballot lists. What a judicious environmental safeguard! EVMs have not only made the polling process smooth, but also made the counting of votes extremely easy, quick, and thoroughly tamper-proof. The icing on the cake is the smooth transfer of power to the winning party. The success of elections in India has attracted huge world attention. On the request of the Commonwealth Secretariat, an Indian electronic voting machine has been provided for display in the office of the Secretary General in London. The Indian mission was, is, and will always be from the biggest democracy to the greatest democracy in the world. The Indian bandwagon is on the right track. The people's commitment to electoral democracy has never wavered. It is a homegrown democracy, planted, managed, and nurtured by Indians. India, the land of philosophers, has also become India, the land of doers. The initial leaps forward have been taken. Now it's time to soar. In the next elections, Indians with new outlooks, new hopes, and new dreams will be asked to decide who they are and to choose where they want to be led and by whom. And the search will begin again. In the words of the legendary Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the mind is led forward by Thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.